Okay, let's start with our exercise 5. So the exercise is zero padding. Okay, this is actually a procedure to pad zeros all around the matrix. Okay, so for example, it is given a matrix of size m comma n. So here it is our matrix, say for example 2 by 2 matrix. I want to pad zeros on its outer layer. So I want to add pad zeros on its outer layer. So a row of zeros is added, a row of zeros is added, a column of zeros, a column of zeros. So our output matrix becomes size of matrix increased by 2. Okay, for 2 comma 3 it will become 4 comma 5, things like that. I have to add 2 rows and 2 columns of zeros. Okay, so this is what we call this process, what we call zero padding. Okay, and let's see if we can actually do it here. Okay, so our x was something like this is our array 2 comma 5. Okay, then I use this semicolon means I'm going to the next line. So if I write this semicolon, I don't have to actually go to the next line. I can just write it here. It will automatically create this matrix. Okay, this comma for হচ্ছে next row and this semicolon is for next column. Okay, we can actually try creating something like add another element, say 2 5 9, and add another element here 6 comma 8 comma 3. Okay, so as you can see I am creating this 2 by 3 matrix. But remember, if I don't write this, so I have 3 elements in the top row and 2 elements in the bottom row, so that will not work. So the dimension of arrays being concatenated are not consistent, so it has to be a same thing. Okay, 6 comma 8 comma say 3. So this is our array, this is our matrix 2 by 3 matrix. So I want to add a 0 of in the top, in the bottom, in the left and the right. Okay, now the question is how to do that. Okay, now here, so there are many ways you can actually approach when you are actually working with a programming. So there are many ways we can solve the same problem in different ways, and if you can provide this output, that is the purpose. If you can provide this purpose provide this output, then that's okay. Any way you do, everything is fine. Okay, you just have to provide this output, that's your task. Now, so let's take a look that I'm going to use here. For example, say first I'm going to add a column of zeros in the left and a column of zeros on the right. Okay, so how we can do that? Let's write y is equals to, okay, let's see something. For example, if I write something, if you remember from your last weeks, if I write zeros of, I want to create a column of zeros. So I want to create 2 rows 1 columns, right? So that is creating this thing, zeros of 2 comma 1, that is creating. I want to append, okay, this one in front of this one, also in back of this one. Okay, so how we can do this? Let's see. We write, let's write a script here. Okay, we have written lots of functions. Let's start writing a script again. So this is our exercise 05. Okay, so 05 I have already created something, so that's okay. 06. Okay, so this is our matrix. So let's do something like, we are going to create first, we are going to create add some zeros here. So what you can do, we can write zeros of 2 comma 1. So I'm not creating, I'm only creating for this, okay, this matrix only, this matrix only. That's why I'm using this dimension. Okay, I'm not actually generalize it for any types of input size. Okay, I'm only writing for this to make you understand fast. So I am writing zeros of 2 comma 1, so it will create this 0. Then I'm going to press next this array, so that is our x. So I'm using a comma because I am adding this in next to each other. Then I'm using comma, then I'm going to use again this thing, zeros of 2 comma 1. Okay, so if I write this, let's see what it actually happens. So as you can see, first we actually write these zeros. So this is our 0. Then with a comma I have written this whole thing, this whole x. Then again with comma I have written this thing. So these are actually placed concatenated. Okay, this is what we call concatenation. Okay, concatenation. If you are familiar with the concatenation, so something like this. Okay, catenation. So I am actually first, what I am doing here is, first I have a 0 0. Okay, something like this. Okay, then I have a same size matrix here. Then I am placing this another 0. Okay, so I can do this by just writing a comma of comma, okay, inside this matrix. So this will actually do this task. Okay, I believe it is clear. Now what we want to do, this is what is called horizontal catenation, because I am pressing horizontally. Okay, now I want to, sorry, this is what is called, whatever, that doesn't matter. Now I want to place a row of 0 here, a row of 0 below. Okay, so now it was originally was 2 by 3 size, right? But after adding this 2 0, it actually become 2 by 5. So I have to add a row of zeros of size this whole thing. Okay, and let's come here. So let's see, I have to add a row of size 1 comma 5. So I can actually create something like this. If you remember, if I write zeros of 1 comma 5, it will create an array of same dimension. Now I want to add this array on top of it and on below of it. Okay, so let's see how we can do this. What are you going to write? Say this is our y, so z is equals to, so first I'm going to write, let's just copy it, copy zeros of f, so copy it, copy zeros of something. So I have copied this thing. Then now I am not actually going to place it on next to it, rather I am going to actually place it on in the next column. So I have to use, instead of comma, I have to use this semicolon, because if you remember here, to add it, okay, in next to each other, so I'm using this comma. So if I want to stack it one top of another, so I have to use this semicolon. So I'm using this semicolon, then I'm using this y. So this was our y. Then I'm going to use, then I'm going to do, then I'm going to write again, I'm going to write this. Okay, the same thing. Okay, let's see what is our, okay, first let's write our x. So this was our x. Let's see what is our y. So first this was our y, we added two zeros here, so we added this thing first, this was our thing. Then on top of it we actually add a zeros of zeros, and then in below it we also add another zeros. So this is our matrix of size, this is our padded matrix. Okay, padded with zeros. Okay, now this is, although this is not actually what I called generalized, because it is only working for this dimension. If I change the dimension, for example, say I change the x, so this was our original x, so let's make it, instead of 2 by 3, if I make it 2 by 4, add two elements more, 6 8, and let's add 4. Now will this work? It will not work. Let's see. First I am adding this, since the column number of columns, number of rows are fixed, so I'm just adding these two zeros, that's okay. But when I'm using this, okay, this catenation, when I'm placing zeros, I was creating a zeros of 5, but now I need a zeros of 6. So it actually depends on the input size. So you can actually generalize this by writing a function. That's why we actually intend to write a function, so that we can actually generalize things very easily. Okay, the purpose of writing a function is generalized for any kinds of input. Okay, now before I actually do that, you can actually do that. I would suggest that you actually practice it by yourself, but that is not the reason actually I actually place this exercise. The thing is, there is already a built-in function to do this task. Okay, and I have already written here, that is called pad array. Now I wanted to show you that just because you don't know a built-in function, that doesn't mean you cannot actually write a code by yourself. You can definitely write a code by yourself. These built-in functions are actually codes that has been written by someone working in the MATLAB. Okay, but that doesn't mean you can write your by yourself. You can, if you don't know something, no built-in function, that's completely fine. You can write your own write your own user-defined function and perform the same task, and it is not very complicated. Okay, it's like, if you actually look at this, it is not actually a very difficult task. You are just adding, concatenating different elements, just fixing the size. So if you actually look at the size, you can easily add this m and then n here, and it will be work for any kinds of input. Now, so before I actually go there, let's take a look at this function. Okay, pad array. So if I search it here, if you can see, now pad array is not a basic MATLAB function. This is something from image processing toolbox. That is something that I actually discussed in the last lecture, the toolbox function. So this pad array actually a toolbox function that belongs to image processing. So when you are using the basic MATLAB, this is not available. And when you are using MATLAB, for example, if in your MATLAB, okay, this toolbox is not actually installed in your MATLAB, okay, you might not be able to use this function. Okay, and also when you are working with like MATLAB computations, Okay, in many MATLAB computations they will not allow this toolbox. For example, if you actually try to compute in Cody, you will see the toolbox functions are not allowed. Okay, because there are lots of toolboxes, some are added each year, some of the new toolboxes are added, so all the toolboxes are not always available either. Okay, so the basic thing is learn the basic MATLAB that is always available, and if you want you can actually use this built-in function, use this toolbox function, but good practice it to do it by yourself, by your own hand. Okay, write a function like pad array by yourself, but don't use this and this line, this pad array that is already been created. Don't use this name, add some different name by yourself. So let's look at this toolbox function for now. So that is called pad array. So here you can see there is pad array A, this is a matrix, and this is the size. What is the size I want to use? Then if I use 1 2 3 input, then there is something that what is the value I want to use, and there is also, with this we can also use the direction. Okay, and let me, you can actually read through it, it is going to take a lot of time, so I'm going to just show you. You can also look at the examples. If you look at the examples, it will become very clear. Okay, you can do it by yourself, and you should actually try to do it by yourself. Okay, now so let's take a look here. So our original matrix was like this, x. Okay, so if I write something like pad array of x comma, say I want to write 2. Okay, so as you can see, when I write 2 in the top layer, I have added 0 is added on the top, also in the bottom, and 2 rows is added. Okay, instead of 1 row, 2 row, because I have written here 2. If I written here 1, okay, only 1 row would be added, but it is not writing added here, not on the left side, nor on the right side. So what we have to do for that, we can write something that is called BOTH, both. Okay, sorry, it's not taking, why is not? Let's take a look. Oh, it is already created here. If I take a look, all these things here, okay, 3,3,0. Okay, so I have to write something that is called 1,1. Okay, now so previously when I'm using both, that means I want to do in the top and also in the left right, so I have to define for both those things. Okay, so now I have this something like this. Say for example, if I use this pre, I will get only in the top row. Okay, if I write post, okay, post, I'll get only in the bottom side. So when I want on the top, bottom, as well as left, right, I have to actually define this like this way on both sides. So let's try to define something different, see what actually happens. Okay, see what actually happens. So now we can see 1 comma 2 means I'm adding one row, that is our one row in the top, one row in the bottom, but in the column side I'm actually using 2 because I have written here 2. So when you are defining both, you have to define an array like this. Okay, so yeah, these things actually you can just search this one and try to read how to read these things. Okay, everything is given here, also with the examples are also given, so you can actually test those things by yourself. Okay, there are lots of things, so I cannot actually cover all of those things. That will be like 2 hours or 3 hours long lectures. I want to show something else. For example, say when I'm writing this pre, so it normally does this. I can also do something like instead of 0, if I write like 100 1001. Okay, as you can see 1001 is actually added in the top instead of 0. So by default 0 is added. So if I want something different to be added, I can just write here on next. That was what was actually defined by this term. So first input is the pad size, then the pad value. So first I have inputted this pad size. Okay, then I have inputted this pad value, then I have inputted this is what we call the direction. Okay, it can actually take multiple inputs. If I don't do this, so if I don't do this, it can still work. It is just defining the both sides. So there are some default feature also added here. So I believe it is clear. Just try to work with it by your own hand a little bit. See how it actually works in different metrics, in different types of shapes, placing different values of these things. Testing it by yourself, you will see it will actually become much more clear. Okay, so let's finish it here. I hope it is clear.